I never wear it. I just touch it in my hand. Then I can put it on my altar at home. Thank you. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana 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 Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana 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 Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya
Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya, Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya, Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Pavrikacharya Satara Sada Shishimana's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai. Jai Radha Krishna Gopa Gopanath Shai Mukunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Brindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki. Srimati Tulsi Devi Ki. Harinam Sankirtan Ki. Brihat Mridanga Ki. Samaveda Bhaktivinda Ki. Gaur Premanandi. All glories assembled devotees. All glories assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 74. This is the killing of, or the liberation of Shishupal, as he gets a little too insulting in the Rajasuya sacrifice. So we're reading Canto 10, Chapter 74, verse number 6, and then also included in this will be the list of the names of the sages, which is 7 through 9. So first we'll chant verse number 6 together. Shri Shukuvacha It Yuktva Yagyane Kale Vavre Yuktansa Ritvija Krishnanumodita Prarto Brahmana Brahmavadina It Yuktva Yagyane Kale Vavre Yuktansa Ritvija Krishna Numodita Parto Brahmana Brahmavadina It Yuktva Yagyane Kale Vavre Yuktansa Ritvija Krishna Numodita Parto Brahmana Brahmavadina. No, Maharaj first. It Yukva Yagniye Hare Vavre Yuktan Saritvija Krishna Numodito Parto Brahmanan Brahmavadina. Any other men? Shri Shukavacha It Yukva Yagni Kale Tanve Ritvanta Vitraja Krishnanumodita Partha Brahmanan Brahmavadina. Ladies? It yuktva yagni ekale Vavre yuktan savritvija Krishnanumodi patarto Brahmanan Brahmavadina. Sri Shuku Vacha. Shukadev Goswami said, Iti, thus, Uktva, speaking, Yagniye, appropriate for the sacrifice, Kale, at the time, Vavre, chose, Yuktan, suitable, Sa, he, Ritvija, sacrificial priests, Krishna, by Lord Krishna, Anumodita, sanctioned, Partha, the son of Prita, Yudhisthira, Brahmanan, Brahmanas, Brahma, of the Vedas, Vadinaha, expert authorities. Translation and purport by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Shukadev Goswami said, having said this, King Yudhisthira waited until the proper time for the sacrifice, was at hand. Then, with Lord Krishna's permission, he selected suitable priests, all expert authorities on the Vedas, to execute the sacrifice. Please repeat. Shukadev Goswami said, having said this, King Yudhisthira waited until the proper time for the sacrifice was at hand. Then, with Lord Krishna's permission, he selected suitable priests, all expert authorities on the Vedas, to execute the sacrifice. Purport. The great Bhagavatam commentator, Sridhar Swami, explains that the proper time for the sacrifice mentioned here was the spring. And I'm going to read Sanatana Goswami's Tika, also on this verse. After praising the Lord and completing other duties, when the proper time arrived for the sacrifice, he selected priests after gaining permission from Krishna, who was requested to appear in this world as Bhagavan in order to please him and to perfect all actions done and to increase the enthusiasm of the Brahmanas, since he was the son of Prita, a great devotee of Krishna. This indicates that Yudhisthira was knowledgeable and skillful in all actions. Brahmavadina means dedicated to studying the Vedas. Now here is the list of priests, and I'm just going to read the English, who he has invited. He selected Krishna Dvaipayana, Bharadwaj, Sumantu, Gotama, and Asita. These are the first ones, the most important, along with Vashishta, Chayavana, Kanva, Maitreya, Kavasha, and Trita. He also selected Vishvamrita, Vamadev, Sumati, Jainmani, Kratu, Pila, and Parshara, as well as Garga, Vaishampayana, Atharva, Kashyapa, Domya, Ram of the Bhargavas, Asuri, Vitihotra, Madhuchanda, Virasena, and Akrita Vrana. Purport. King Yudhisthira invited all these exalted brahmanas to act in different capacities as priests, advisors, and so on. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Basai Buddhale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamani Namaste. Saraswati Devi Gauravani Bacharani Nirvasesa Shunyavadi Prachchadesh Tarni Vanchakalpa Charubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyebacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So we're finally getting to the point where Yudhisthira is now ready for the Rajasuya sacrifice, and he's appointing very exalted personalities. In fact, these exalted personalities don't get together very often. It's mentioned a couple other times in the Bhagavatam when they got together, and I'll get to that later. But these great personalities have been invited by King Yudhisthira under the guidance of Krishna, who wants to make this Rajasuya sacrifice perfect. So therefore, having these great personalities, these great sadhus, I mean, this is real sadhu sangha here, so many great exalted personalities to actually officiate and to oversee this great sacrifice. Of course, unfortunately, or actually fortunately for the Bhagavatam story, so we can see the exalted nature of Krishna and how he's so merciful, Shishupal, he stands up and does his best to ruin everything. But nothing can be ruined in the auspicious presence of Krishna and these great personalities. So I'd like to actually talk about a little bit about how we got here, because it's a long story, how finally we're getting to the point when King Yudhisthira, emperor of the world, is engaging in this great sacrifice to cement his position as the chief among all the great kings. And if we want to study the sequence of events, we have to go way back to chapter 70. That's actually 5 chapters ago, where we see Krishna. He's engaged in his daily activities. We're reading a whole chapter about Krishna back in chapter 70, how he's engaging in activities as the perfect householder in Dwarka. And it's sort of a follow-up on chapter 69, where Narada Muni is going around to every one of his palaces to see how Krishna is acting differently in every one of the 16,108 palaces. So this is God to be able to do that. So anyway, in chapter 70, as we get towards the end of chapter 70, and Krishna, at the chapter's just about to end, all of a sudden a messenger comes in and says, there are 20,000 kings being imprisoned by Jarasandha, and they have to be released. At that very moment, when the messenger comes in, Narada appears and says that it's really good if you can go to Indraprastha, so you can be there for the attendance, in attendance for a Rajasuya sacrifice that's going to be performed by Yudhisthira. And so then Uddhava, who's there, says, actually, by the way, before you can do this, Jarasandha is going to have to be eliminated. So then in chapter 71, Krishna does travel to Indraprastha, and it's there that Uddhava advising Krishna just how it is going to be done, how he suggests you need to do this activity of killing Jarasandha, because you can't do the Rajasuya sacrifice till all the kings have been subdued, and everybody else, all the other kings, they just submitted to Yudhisthira, but not Jarasandha. I mean, after all, Jarasandha is very hard-headed. He fought with Krishna 17 times and lost. And on the 18th time, Krishna tricked him, and he thought, actually, I won, because Krishna ran away. But it wasn't really what Jarasandha thought. But in any case, so in chapter 71, Uddhava advises Krishna that you need to go kill this Jarasandha. But actually, Bhima should do it, but he'll be empowered by you. And then you'll be able to release these kings. So in chapter 72, Bhima, Arjuna, and Krishna go disguised as brahmanas to Jarasandha's capital city. And Jarasandha, he's very Vedic. I mean, even the demons follow the Vedas. So he gives in charity. He's a religious in the sense that he goes to the temple and worships Lord Shiva and makes offerings to the different demigods. And he's living. He really is an example of following rules and regulations of a magnanimous king. But he also, his dark side is really dark, because he's got these 20,800 kings all locked up in a dungeon, and he plans to kill them all. This is just the ugly reality of a demon. He may have a very nice, be dressed very nicely and be very polite, but he's actually demoniac in his core activities. So at this point, the three, Krishna, Arjuna, and Bhima, approach him as, quote, brahmanas. He, of course, sees through the ruse immediately, and Krishna then says, well, I'm Krishna, this is Arjuna, and this is Bhima, and we're come here for a fight. And Jarasandha, being puffed up as he is, he says, I won't fight with Krishna because he ran away and he's a coward, and I won't fight with Arjuna because he's junior and he can't beat me. The only person who can fight with me is Bhima. So he decides to fight with Bhima. There's a 28-day long fight. It's not, Bhima can't win, neither can Jarasandha. But then Krishna says, by the way, Jarasandha was joined he was actually, and we'll get into the whole story, but he was in two parts. He was in the woods, and this demoness named Jara found him, put him together, and that's why he's called Jarasandha, put together by Jara. And all you have to do, really, is rip him in half. So that's what Bhima did. He ripped him in half, and that was the end of Jarasandha. Now, they can actually do the Rajasuya sacrifice. However, in the meantime, Krishna has promised to actually free these kings, and so chapter 73, he blesses all the kings, 20,800 of them, and they offer their obeisances and prayers and glorification of Krishna, and then Arjuna, Bhima, and Krishna go back to Indraprastha, and finally now, we're in chapter 74. And we're in the beginning of chapter 74. It's a very long chapter, so we haven't even got to the real Rajasuya sacrifice yet, because Yudhisthira is setting it up the right time of the year, that's spring, under the right circumstances, and he's inviting so many sages to come to bless the event, and actually, more than bless the event, by their presence, they purify the event. They make it an event where everyone who attends is actually becoming purified by their very presence. And it's also to be understood that at least in some way, somehow, there's going to be a lot of Krishna Katha going on before or after, because each one of these sages is full of all the knowledge about the Vedas and about pastimes of the Lord, and they're all very dear to the Lord. So this is a very auspicious event. Now, as I said before, this is the first of 3 times where these sages have been mentioned to have had to get together in order to bless an occurrence. Now, it's interesting that the Bhagavatam is not strictly chronological. Like, in other words, as you read through it, it's not like everything in the third canto happened before everything in the fourth canto, etc. The stories don't necessarily come in order. So it's interesting to note here, in this 10th canto, very late in the Bhagavatam, that this gathering happens before the events in the first canto. This is an assembly of sages, and they're meeting for this Rajasuya sacrifice, which happens before the Battle of Kurukshetra. And actually, the next verses after this talks about what Kshatriyas were invited to this sacrifice. And those Kshatriyas invited to the sacrifice include Dhritarashtra and his infamous sons, headed by the most infamous Duryodhana. So we see here that this gathering of these great personalities, this is the first time they've gathered chronologically in the Bhagavatam. Now, the other two times that they actually gather, and it happens in stories in the first canto of the Bhagavatam. Now, it's interesting how the Bhagavatam is put together, that actually Shukadeva Goswami's teachings, the conversation between himself and Parikshit Maharaj, doesn't begin until the beginning of the second chapter, second canto. Second canto begins the actual relating of the story that Parikshit is hearing in the last 7 days of his life. The first canto sets up the story, and it actually sets up the story in a way in which we understand it's after the Battle of Kurukshetra. It's after all these events that had happened, including things like the killing of the 5 sleeping little boys, the sons of the Pandavas, the salvation of Parikshit in the womb of his mother Uttara, and it's in this context that we see the other two times that these great sages come together. So these two times are really important. And the first time they come together is when Bhishma Deva is passing from this world on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And that's the ninth chapter of the first canto. And the list of sages, which is almost identical to this list, is related in verses 6 through 8 of the ninth chapter. And these personalities, they're there for when Bhishma, the great personality, gives instructions to Yudhisthira Maharaj about being a Kshatriya king and emperor, and also leaves in the presence of Krishna, who comes to be before him. So they are also blessing that event. Now, the next time that they all get together actually is right before Shukadeva Goswami speaks to Parikshit Maharaj. In other words, the last chapter of the first canto, 19, is where Shukadeva Goswami appears. Of course, he's already appeared. He spent 19 years in his mother's womb, poor mom. And when he left the womb, he immediately left home and just was gone. And his father, Vyasadeva, was chasing after him, and there's a whole story there. But he's then gone off in order to speak the Bhagavatam. He's been blessed by his father to hear it within the womb. So the fact is that he then is wandering around. It's described he was wandering around naked, surrounded by little children and women, and they were described to be kind of like the urchins. They were kind of like not the highest class people in the world. And so he's wandering here and there, and Parikshit's already been cursed by Shringi, the Brahmin boy, And so he's sitting down. He already knows he's got 7 days until Takshaka is going to come and bite him, and he'll leave his body. So he's waiting, and all the sages, they come. And that's all the same sages again, the same, important personalities headed by Vyasadeva and other great sages mentioned in this list that I just read. So, and it's interesting also, if you go to these these two sections of the Bhagavatam in the first canto, that's verses 6 through 8 of chapter 9, and then verses 9 and 10 in chapter 19. Prabhupada gives a little history, a little bio of most of the different sages, so we know who they are and what they've done. But the important point is they're just waiting for Shukadeva to come, and Shukadeva Goswami shows up, and immediately he takes command of the scene as the speaker who's going to speak the truth about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and give King Parikshit the understanding of what he needs to know at the time of death. And that is that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that we are all his servants, and that we have an eternal relationship with Krishna as servitors in the eternal abode of Vaikuntha, or for us who are following Srila Prabhupada, certainly within Brajadam, the precinct of Goloka and Gokula. So anyway, this is a little background about how important it is that these sages have gathered. So King Yudhisthira, he completely understood that this assembly of sages was the purificatory part of the whole sacrifice. Without them, without these sages, without the pure devotees, then the sacrifice, it can't really be done. Because every act in Krishna consciousness has to be connected in this day and age to kirtan, Krishna Katha, and to the association of devotees. And if we're in the temple, to seeing the deities, worshiping Tulsi, all the things that Srila Prabhupada gave us to remember our relationship with Krishna. We have a relationship with Krishna eternally. We don't remember it. We don't understand it. It's lying dormant. And this dormant Krishna consciousness is reawakened through the process of Krishna consciousness, which has been given to us by Srila Prabhupada. So here we are. This is the setting for what's going to come up in the next verses after that. Now, I was thinking about a segue into what this means for us. And, sometimes segues are really clear and easy to connect. This one is not as clear and easy to connect, except that we understand what it is that Krishna is found in and served through acts of sacrifice. And in previous ages, we know that the different ways that personalities connected to the Supreme Lord, in Satya Yuga through meditation, and in Treta Yuga through great sacrifices. Then there was great deity worship in Dwapara Yuga. But in this age, the sacrifice, the only sacrifice that is effective, is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. It is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and that chanting done in the association with the devotees, and in a setting in which we can share this Maha Mantra with others. And the person who gave us this opportunity to connect with all this that we've talked about so far is Srila Prabhupada. He is the single most important personality to appear. I mean, we could say forever, certainly forever for us, there have been great personalities before. I mean, I don't know how you compare Srila Prabhupada to Rupa Goswami, but, you know, they're all great personalities. But it's Prabhupada who actually went across the ocean and came to the West and then translated all this literature that was locked in languages that no one could speak, in Sanskrit or maybe Bengali, in the case of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then distributed this everywhere through his angas, his disciples and grand disciples, etc., so that we have actually a basis for entering into this world of Krishna consciousness that we read about in the Bhagavatam, that we read about in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So one of, Prabhupada, he emphasized that really if we can read Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nectar of Devotion, that there's really nothing else we need to read. I mean, we do read other things now because we've got access to a lot of the Goswami literature, but it's Srila Prabhupada who's given us that access ultimately. So I wanted to read something about association with devotees and the sacrifice of this age, the Sankirtan movement, that Srila Prabhupada has translated or summarized in a translation in the Nectar of Devotion. This is Nectar of Devotion 17. An example of rising to the stage of ecstatic love by executing the regulative principles of devotional service is given in the life story of Narada, which is described to Vyasadeva in Srimad Bhagavatam. This is also a story that comes in the first canto as a setting for the rest of the of Bhagavatam. It's chapters 5 and 6 of the first canto. Narada tells there of his previous life and how he developed this, to the stage of ecstatic love. He was engaged in the service of great devotees and used to hear their talks and songs. Service to the great devotees, association with great devotees. Remember, these sages are at this sacrifice. Because he had the opportunity to hear these pastimes and songs of Krishna from the mouths of pure devotees, he became very attracted within his heart. This is a template for us. Hearing the stories and the activities of great devotees will help us develop attraction in our heart for Krishna. Because he had become so eager to hear these topics, he gradually developed within himself an ecstatic love for Krishna. This ecstatic love is prior to pure love of Krishna. This means he developed bhav, which is an emotional attachment for Krishna, which is just before prem. And prem, or prema, is that ecstatic love that we see exhibited most highly by the gopis in Vrindavan and Srimati Radharani. But also, there is also prem. You can't say that Mother Yashoda doesn't experience prem. It's Vatsalya prem. It's really sweet. And we chant every Nam Namishvaram Satchidananda Rupam. It's a whole Damodarastika. And then, of course, don't tell the cowherd boys that they don't experience prem. Playing with Krishna, trading lunches with him, laughing and joking, and wow, what a wonderful experience. Anyway, this prem comes after we've developed this bhava, which is an emotional attachment for Krishna. When will my hair stand in ecstasy as I chant the holy name? I'm looking for that someday, somewhere. So we're going on here. This ecstatic love is prior to the pure love of Krishna, because in the next verse, Narada confirms that by the gradual process of hearing from the great sages, he developed love of Godhead. In this connection, Narada continues to say in the first canto, 5th chapter, verse 28 of the Bhagavatam, "First I passed my days in the association of great sages during the rainy autumn season. Every morning and evening I heard them while they were singing and chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. And thus my heart gradually became purified. Every day we can do this, and thus our hearts will gradually become purified. As soon as I heard them with great attention, the influence of the modes of material nature and passion, modes of material ignorance and passion, disappeared, and I became firmly fixed in devotional service to the Lord. When, oh, when will that day be mine, when we can actually come to this platform? But in the association of devotees, the journey is also very sweet. I mean, it may be punctuated by some uncomfortable moments. As we've discussed in previous classes, sometimes Krishna has to knock on the door. You're off. There's a problem. And if we listen quickly, then the knock doesn't get louder. But sometimes the knock is going to get very loud, and he may have to bust in the door. But in any case, what we need to do is understand that, this is a very wonderful, sweet process. But according to the amount of anarthas in our heart that we aren't really looking for and don't want to get rid of or whatever, Krishna may have to come in and with a broom or a vacuum cleaner or something a little more radical to get rid of them. These are practical examples of how one can develop to the stage of ecstatic love simply by the association of pure devotees. It is essential, therefore, that one constantly associate with pure devotees who are engaged morning and evening in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. In this way, one will get the chance to purify his heart and develop this ecstatic, pure love for Krishna. Now, we ourselves here, I mean, speaking for myself, I'm not on that platform. But if all of us, while we're here, agree, and we're not going to bring in our grumya kata and we're not going to be, checking the stock market on our phones or whatever, then we can at least be helping each other in the presence of Prabhupada, in the presence of the Supreme Lord on the altar, to create a place where we're being guided by the pure devotee. This statement is confirmed in the 3rd canto, 25th chapter, verse 25, very famous verse, of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Lord Kapila says, my dear mother, when a person is actually in association with pure devotees, the sublime potency of my devotional service is experienced. And when we're in the association of Srila Prabhupada through his books, then we are actually in the association of pure devotees. And in this verse also, 3:25:25, the English is, just no time for the Sanskrit now, in the association of pure devotees, discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and in the heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and therefore he is freed, and his attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotion and devotional service begin. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Kanvanta
kasundarangan. Kandar akong ikamaniya, Vishesha Shobha.
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami.
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Anganiyasa Sakale Priya Priti Manti Pasyanti Panti Kayanti Chiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami.
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam Adipurusham
Jamim. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Namaniti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Vajane Nivasesha Shunyavani. No cartels. Pachachade Zacharine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Ganada Siva Sari Maurata Brahma. Jai Sri Krishna Nityananda Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Ganada Siva Sari Maurata Brahma. Sri Krishna Na Prabhu Nityananda Siddhwaita Radha Siva Sari Noraturina Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Bore Hate. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Nine Radha Goloka Ragate. Ragate. Radhe, 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 Radhe. Radhe, Radhe, Jaya Sri Radhe, Jai Om Vishnupad.
Chaitodarpanam Arjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam Shreya Kairavya Chandrikavi Taranam Vidyavadu Jivanam. Beautiful. Anandam Bhuni Vardhanam Pratipanam Pranamrita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrapita Nihamita Smarane Nakala Etadrishita Vakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaiva Midrishami Hajjani Nanuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Suhishuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sudahari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Vajagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhavatat Bhaktir Ahoitaki Twai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddha Kripayata Vapada Pankaja Stita Duli Sadrashim Vachintaya Nayanam Gadashu Daraya Vadanam Gad Guru Dayagira Pulakarnishitam Vapukata Tavanamagrahame Vishyati Yugayatam Namishena Chakshusha Pravashayatam Shunayatam Jagat Sarvam Govindam Virahena Me Ashlishavapadamritam Banastumam Adarshanam Marmahata Karotuva Yatatatava Vidadatu Lampato Mat Prananatastusa Eva Napara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. Oh, my Lord. Congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you've invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh, my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your cause's devotional service, birth after birth. O Son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death, one of the atoms at your lotus feet. Oh, my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up? And when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? Oh, Govinda, feeling your separation,